Yo, you've probably had a pet in your lifetime, like a dog, or perhaps even a cat, or maybe a hamster that died in some unusual way and your dad never told you about how it happened. Either way, pets have always had their place in history, and in this video I'll be going over some of the most unusual pets that I could research about on the internet. We'll be starting off pretty simple with a pair of pigs named JJ and Oreo that live on the US Virgin Island of St. Croix. Now the two pigs here, they live at a bar named Montpelier Hut Domino Club, which is a bar that's been there for over 20 years. The owners of the bar has for over 20 years kept pigs that do drink beer in one way or another, with the first ever pig being a pig named Buster, who is also the grandfather to Oreo. Now the only reason I actually learned anything about these pigs during my research is because they are a tourist attraction at the bar, where for the low cost of $2 you can buy them a round of ginger beer, where you take the can, unopened, throw them into the mouth, and they will just goggle down on it, and they will just drink it, and they will then spit the can out afterwards. It is important to note, however, that there's no alcohol in the drink, so it's not because it's animal abuse or anything, but it's still a cool thing nonetheless. Now that being said, the next animal on our list also has a drinking issue when it comes to beer, but this time we're actually talking about an animal that does drink alcohol, and I'm talking about the elk of Tycho Brahe. Tycho Brahe was a famous Danish astronomer back in the 16th century that at his peak had around 1% of Denmark's GDP as his own net worth. It's for this reason that Tycho Brahe thought that he should be more posh, and instead of going for a dog, he decided to go for an elk. Now the elk itself doesn't have a name, but the only reason it's written down in history is because it was known to be a complete and utter drunk. You see, when you have so much wealth that it literally accounts for 1% of a country's GDP, you have to throw a whole bunch of parties, which is what the astronomer did. It was also at these parties where Tycho Brahe would make the elk drink some beer, maybe take a couple of lines, who knows, and then afterwards the elk would begin to get immensely drunk and entertain the guests. This would also at some point lead to the elk's demise, where it would get, like any other occasion, batshit drunk, and it would then try to walk up a pair of stairs, where it would then fall down and die. Moving up on our next animal on our list, we have a bear called Wojciech. Wojciech? Wojciech. Hold on.
Wojciech.
Now,
Wojciech.
was a Syrian brown bear born in Iran in around 1942. It was also in 1942 that the bear's parents were at some point shot by hunters, and then soon afterwards a young Iranian child would then find the young cub. It was also around this time in 1942 that a small conflict you might have heard of was happening around the world called World War II, and at this point multiple different Polish military groups were also outstationed in Iran. On the 8th of April 1942, one of these Polish groups of soldiers would then buy the young bear cub from the Iranian boy and then take him in as one of their own. Since the bear cub at this point was still pretty young, it was still trying to imitate the people around it and learn how to live, which is also how it picked up two of the most important things to be a human, and that is smoking and drinking. The Polish soldiers will spend multiple months with the bear, traveling through Iran to Syria and then later on Egypt at some point, while it was still drinking and smoking like its comrades. Now at some point in 1943, all the different Polish and British groups that were outstationed in the north of Africa had to take part in the Italian campaign. Now since the British had some dumb rule about animals not being allowed to transport from North Africa to Italy, the Polish army decided to find a loophole around their problem. So to get the bear on board of the actual ships towards Italy, the Polish army basically just promoted it to a private and actually enlisted it in the army, which it worked. Wojciech would then participate in the Italian campaign from 1943 until 1945, where it would help all the other soldiers carry around artillery shells. Now at some point after the war, the bear was later on moved to Scotland and then soon after moved to Edinburgh Zoo in 1947, where it would finally die at the ripe old age of 21 on the 2nd of December 1963. Now for the last entry on our list, we will actually be staying at Edinburgh Zoo, where we will meet our next participant. Meet one Major General Sir Nils Olaf III, Baron of the Boved Island. Now while you would definitely think that's a very impressive title for a human, you would be absolutely wrong in the sense that we're not talking about humans, because this is a video about pets, we're talking about a king penguin. Major General Sir Nils Olaf III is actually a king penguin that is listed as a Major General in the Norwegian Army. It's important to note that the current penguin that is Nils Olaf III is also, funny enough, the third penguin to have the title of Sir Nils Olaf. At some point in 1972, some of the Norwegian army was out visiting Edinburgh Zoo and came across some of the king penguins in their display. This is also where one of the lieutenants of the group, named Niels Egelin, became very interested in the colony of penguins in the zoo. It was then finally arranged that a penguin should be a part of the regiment of the Norwegian army, and this was the first ever Niels Olav. Niels Olav was originally put into the army with the rank of Lance Corporal, but would later on move up one rank each time the Norwegian army visited Edinburgh Zoo. In 2023, this would finally result in the rank of Major General, which is the third highest rank in the Norwegian army. In 2008, King Harald V of Norway decided that the penguin should also be awarded the next title of knighthood. It was also at this point in my research that I discovered that the penguin during his ceremony was written up a citation from the King of Norway, which read that the penguin was in every way qualified to receive the honor and dignity of knighthood. And I think that's funny as fuck because, it never actually did anything else but just be a penguin. The penguin that we know today also carries the title of Baron of the Bouvet Island, which is an uninhabited island out in the middle of nowhere that is controlled by Norway. Now all this mixed match of different titles and ranks in the military finally gave Sir Niels Olav III the title of being the highest ranked penguin in the world by the Guinness Book of World Records. So remember folks, if you ever think you could accomplish something in life, a penguin has already outbeaten you. That being said, you should probably just get a dog instead, I'ma be real.